Kettler has a 50-year history, everything from land development to single one-off apartments, which is still a huge part of our portfolio, management of 30,000 apartments.
Right.
And Gasworx isn't new for us, but it's a different mindset, when you're thinking of a one-off individual building versus a district, and all the interplay and synergies and challenges and retail cams. I mean, these are things we spend hundreds of hours talking about.
I was going to say a new market,
right.
for Kettler, but also for the people that live here. Like I think Tampa's always been had a metropolitan feel to it. Like even 30 years ago when I was growing up, and my dad was an attorney and worked in the Bank of America building, like the business people walking around, and there was always that feeling of a big city on a small scale. But what's happening now is just so different, right? It's unbelievable scale, but it works, which is interesting. Like there was a lot of skepticism with Water Street when it was first announced.
Sure.
You can't imagine that much square footage and all these different shops and restaurants and buildings going up. You're like, are people really going to fill this place out, right? But when you go there, you see the action.
Yeah.
And I would imagine with this project with Gasworx, there's a level of confidence that comes with it because you have Water Street ahead of you.
Right. And kudos to James, because not only did he work on that project, I mean, he moved from DC. He was like early adopter.
Yeah.
He moved his whole life down here. And I'll be honest, I mean, people in DC were like, Tampa, really? What's going on down there?
Yeah, now we're on the map. It's kind of interesting how things shifted so quickly. But James, you explained when you were on the show last about you were employee number one, and before you started to develop Water Street, you had to build the team and hire the people and do the interviews and get the lay of the land and meet the politicians and the people at the city, all of it. I mean, ground zero, really.
I wasn't number one. I was like number 6 for what it's worth. And actually employees number 1 and 2, I think, are still there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I know they're still there, but yeah, we built the team. The team that was there was the foundation. We ultimately ended up having 70 some people on the team. It was but we, things like accounting and marketing and, all those functions didn't exist. So Graham was employee number 1 here for Kettler.
But with a big support system in DC, which helps a lot.
So James, you're on board now, right? You're the president of development for Kettler as a whole as a company. So you're tracking projects all across the country. And international too? Does Kettler do projects around the world?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
And then Graham, your role at Kettler is what?
So I came down, like I said, in 2020, and it was really initially to sort of run the Gasworx entitlement process, because at that point we were still early days working with Darryl to try and come up with the vision and how it was a very complex planning process, you might imagine. So we hired Tyler Hudson, did a great job of figuring it all out. We kind of worked with him on all that, sort of went through various, public meetings for probably about 2 years. And then once we sort of saw the end of the tunnel there in terms of like, okay, this is really going to, get approved, and now we have the 6 million square feet of density, then it was really more, my kind of role morphed, I guess, into okay, now we have to hire people, we have to execute projects, and really kind of not dissimilar to James's position at SPP, kind of run the office here.
And so when you first meet Darryl, and correct me if I'm wrong, James, but did you bring Darryl and Kettler together? Did you make that introduction?
We, at SVP, we were very friendly with Darryl, so we coordinated a lot. It's like all, developers in Tampa are, I think, very friendly and cordial.
Sure.
And I knew Kettler from my days in DC, and we had met with the Kettler team, Bob, Graham, the team came down and we're scouting Tampa as a market, which, to Graham's point, I really respected, because all of our other competitors or peers in DC were not doing that. So Kettler was really ahead of the curve. Everyone was making fun of me when I moved down here in 2016. Like pretty quickly they realized that there was something happening down here. So yeah, we in that meeting we said, I made the introduction between Kettler and Darryl, and kind of the rest went from there.
So for you, James, was there almost this like welcome to the club, right? Like I've been down here trying to figure this thing out, and now this firm from DC, this large firm, right, with this huge experience, is coming down here and also making a bet.
That's right.
Probably felt
we wanted that.
Good.
I mean, we always said the rising tides theory. So like bringing more in is a good thing for the market. We can't do it all. We don't want to do it all,
Right. And so when you first met Darryl and learned about his vision, what
Mhm.
were your thoughts initially, Graham? It's a huge, bold plan.
Yeah, so I first met Darryl actually up in DC. He came up to visit us and toured a lot of our properties. So that was sort of step one, was like educating Darryl a little bit on like what we do as a company and giving him, I think, reassurance that, we're very sort of adept at high quality development work. And so I met him, for that visit, and then we came down to Tampa. I think it was in like late 2019, and that was my first visit to Ybor City. And so I was like immediately like, wow, this is incredible. This is like such an we don't get these opportunities in the marketplaces we've been working in. Beautiful historic district, has so much potential. And then, layer on top of that, Darryl's own vision of what he really wanted to kind of make Ybor
Yeah.
in terms of a residential community, bring it back to life, make it much more of a true mixed use environment. It's checking all the boxes for us. So, yeah, it was a pretty simple decision, really. And then the guy's sitting on like 50 acres of land as well.
That certainly helps.
Yeah.
That's why Tampa is unique, really, because we have that cool story. We've got the heritage and the history. We've got a great street grid. Sort of the fabric is there, but then you also have so much available land to develop. Like we talk about all the time. Like if you zoom out at the urban core,
Yeah.
even after Gasworks is fully expressed, even after Water Street is fully built out, there's still so much infill and parking lots and these areas of this urban area that can be developed. I mean, there's a long way to go ahead of us. So when you first got to Ybor City, you said you loved it, right? Like the history and everything. What are some of the things you did when you got here?
I did the same thing everyone else does. Pulled out my phone, took a picture of a chicken, and sent it to my wife.
And was she like, "What
here."
the hell? Like, what is this? What's going on?"
No, it was great. It was, but is that and just the character, the brick streets, the buildings, the stories. Yeah, I mean, it's just so easy to fall in love with.
Did you go to the Newman Cigar Factory and get a tour? And
we went to Columbia Restaurant, of course.
Columbia
for
Restaurant.
lunch,
Check it out. Get the full experience.
Yeah. No, we were tourists basically, but it was great.
Yeah, I feel like most historic districts in larger markets, like in DC or Chicago, New York, even London, like these historic areas that have been redeveloped and increased in density become really interesting, because then you have this cool mix of like these old buildings and new apartments and tourists that have never been before, but then you've got the old school families that have been there for generations. Like there's a cool factor here.
They have the one magic word: authenticity.
Authenticity. That's right.
Which developers try to build all the time, but it's hard to create.
Like Water Street, we had nothing. There was it was a canvas, which was a lot of people viewed as a positive. I viewed it as a huge negative. It was like, what does this look and feel like?
Like, what story are you trying to tell? Like by walking along the street here.
What's the brand?
Yeah.
What's the brand? Right.
Yeah.
Well, you did a great job.
Oh, thanks.
And a lot more to go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there it is. So David's showing us 2012. Look at that. Blank canvas.
Lots of highways.
Lots of parking.
Lots of parking, lots of roads that kind of didn't need to be there, disconnected street grid, and then a stadium that kind of is on an island. And then fast forward today, it's become this really cool entertainment district. Like you go to a Lightning game, you step out, and it's just energy. The bars, the restaurants, everything's buzzing.
Yeah.
So for Ybor City, there's already been a story, right, for 120 years.
Right.
And Gasworks has interesting opportunity because a portion of it, maybe half or so or more, correct me if I'm wrong, is not in the historic district.
Correct.
So there's opportunities to go vertical, to push the design forward in a way you can't do in the historic district.
Yep.
So let's talk about Gasworks specifically, like the development itself, kind of what we have here. In this picture, we've got an aerial view of the outline of I'm assuming this is the ownership, what you guys control right here, right? This is Gasworks.
Yep. This is the Gasworks boundary. And we're sort of looking south now, right? We're looking south back to Channel District and downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So to the right side of the screen is actually the west. And that you can see that was cleared. That was previously what was the Tampa Park apartment complex, some of which still remains, which is not our ownership. And so that was really the only active property within this assemblage at the time. But those properties have become sort of beyond, habitable. And so they needed to be addressed, either completely renovated or demolished. And so Darryl worked with the owner to compensate folks to relocate, and that was sort of going back 4 or 5 years ago. On the east side, on the left side of the screen, of course, it's more kind of light industrial. It's empty lots. It's small warehouse type buildings, and then you see the one prominent building, which is the barrel vault ceiling building, and that's the one building, of course, that we're actually keeping in the development plan.
And Gasworx, the name, where does that come from?
Gasworx is the name because the area there just next to that roundabout, to the south of that, was where the Tico gas plant existed. And so that's where they manufactured gas for a long time. And if you go back and look at the old, historic photos, you can see great pictures of that. But that had been already demolished, and then that's kind of giving the whole area the name. It's the Gasworks.
We actually, that picture over there on the wall is sort of the opposite view to the one we're looking at on the screen. So it looks towards the urban core and towards Ybor, and you can see there was a huge, I believe it was an oil tank. David, see if you can find a historic photo of
the
it.
gas holding tanks.
Yeah.
Big round.
Those are really the landmarks.
huge.
Yeah.
And so that's where the name comes from. So
Because again, this area really, it doesn't have that distinctive Ybor character, right? It doesn't have the old cigar factories. It doesn't have the
Right.
social club. It was really kind of more an interstitial space between Ybor and the channel, the
Yeah.
docks.
right.
And so it had more of an industrial flavor to it.
And it's been sort of unwoven for decades, right? Like it looks as it's looked now for years and years and years.
Right.
And there hasn't been any sort of businesses or people living in this area besides the apartments you mentioned.
Mhm.
Largely for as long as I can remember, this was just kind of as you see it. Staging areas or manufacturing warehouses, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so in some way you've got this story in front of you to integrate, right, in the historic district, but also you do have a blank canvas in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and again, I think that's what made this such an intriguing sort of opportunity for us, because it does have that historic
Yeah.
character and authenticity, but you've got blank land.
And Kettler has these projects all over the country. And in your career, you've, of course, visited different markets, worked on all these different projects.
Mhm.
I live here, right? My family's from here. It's hard for me to sometimes get a good perspective on how cool and amazing it is, right? But when you compare it around the country, like how unique is it to have the opportunity to have a development of this size with the history component inside of a downtown core?
Yeah.
On the infrastructure.
Yeah.
I know it's literally, I know Darryl's been on, and between I-4, the Selman, the connector, where the bright line's coming in on the streetcar, half mile from downtown, there's such good locational attributes.
Mhm.
But what you saw was, what Gasworks wasn't a very great gateway, between all the things happening in Channel District and downtown and the Heights and Water Street.
Right.
This community has talked for so many years, for decades, about connecting Channelside and really even before Channelside, downtown as a whole to Ybor. This, like if you zoom out, David, where Nuccio Parkway is in Tampa Union Station, and including even before Encore was redeveloped, that pocket right there was always a dead zone, and people had always envisioned some development to be the connector between those two really cities. Originally, Ybor City
Right.
was its own independent, incorporated city. So what was it that when you guys put this plan together to develop Gasworks, there's a lot to think about, right? There's the historic aspect, respecting those guidelines and that history,
Right.
but then you have to be forward thinking enough to provide something new to the market, because you're allowed to do that, right, on
That's
that
right.
southern portion.
Yeah.
So what was the early on emphasis in designing the streetscape and kind of the area as a whole?
I'd say it's a couple of things. I think historic street grid preservation and reinstatement, because there were definitely a lot of missing blocks to the grid, and to the extent we could possibly knit things back together, very important. And that's not just with roads; that's obviously through sidewalks, trails, a whole sort of slew of things. So that we hired Sasaki as our urban planner, and they have a great sort of international reputation. So they brought a lot of kind of that knowledge to the table in terms of, okay, what makes a great city, walkable, all those things, right? then yeah, you're right. We were kind of, and this is what I mentioned earlier about the planning and the zoning. A lot of this area is where a lot of different things come together from a zoning and planning perspective. And so a lot of it was sorting through that and then trying to figure out the best way to make a transition from a respectful historic district, low density, low rise, up to the edge where you're essentially in channel district, and how do you make that transition?
Yeah, how do you not make those worlds collide? Like
Right.
how do you make them sort of a fabric?
Yeah.
And David, pull up that rendering of Gasworks kind of built out. And obviously that's not set in stone what we're about to pull up.
So really quick
Yeah.
here too. So the roundabout, I don't know when that was added, but that's the location of our new, Graham, was mentioning just the connectivity, but the public realm, there's a lack of large usable public park spaces and green spaces in the downtown core, and really making that the center and heart of the district and rethinking the road grid there and utilizing all that land that was really an unutilized roundabout is the next effort that's underway as well.
Sort of the heart.
There you go. Yeah, you see.
Yeah. And so are you guys looking at the park as like a pass through green space, or will it have an emphasis, meaning like shops facing the park, people in the park, activation, right?
Very active.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And to that point, that was another very early discussion that we had with the city, was like, hey, we think this roundabout is eating up so much land and doesn't really serve a huge purpose. Unfortunately, the city agreed with us. So it was a fairly straightforward conversation, but this actually is real estate owned by the city of Tampa. And so we're going to build this park, and you can see here in this image how we're trying to sort of make it really integrated with the surrounding buildings.
You're looking back at the Barrel Vault building here,
Yeah.
which is existing historic building, and activated on the edges with little restaurant we're working through, and kiosks. There's a water feature. It's a real meant to be a very programmed active park.
Yeah, look at this. Wow. So this is looking east.
Yep.
On the right-hand side, you've got the Paseo, which is no vehicle access, right? So I've heard that could be maybe like outdoor market, something like that on the weekends or whatever.
Exactly.
So that'll also be
You can see how these
activated.
kind of things kind of connect and sort of, because this park really isn't actually that huge, right? It's
Right.
a small urban park, but it will serve a great base for events and sort of gatherings. And you can see how that then connects to the Paseo, and the streetcar stops right there. So, everything kind of comes together nicely at this focal point.
And this park, so the city owns the park,
Mhm.
and are you guys paying to renovate the park, or how does that structure work?
Yeah, so we there was an RFP process to get a 25-year lease on the real estate, and then in return for that, we're building the park. So we're going to build the park. We'll essentially sort of maintain it, and it will feel very much part of the Gasworks experience, at least for 25 years.
Sure.
And then we'll see what happens after that.
So that's cool. So the public gets air quote free park,
Yep.
right? We get this awesome
Yep.
public space to enjoy, and the developers are going to foot the bill for it and pay to maintain it.
Yes.
And there's a huge vested interest in keeping it clean and keeping it nice. And then the city doesn't have the burden of shelling out the money to do all those sort of things.
Correct.
Sounds like a good deal to me. And then also the trolley stop. You guys are adding this trolley stop. This does not currently exist.
Correct.
So that'll be really, really cool to integrate also. Where the current trolley stops, if someone wanted to stop at Gasworks, you'd go to the public stop, I think it's called, south of there on, is it
On
12th?
channel side at
Twigs.
Madison or Twigs?
Twigs, Madison.
Twigs,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, but really, you'd probably go all the way up to Ybor, and then there's I forget exactly how you pronounce it, Kettler, I think it is. It's the stop that's just on the north side of 7th.
Yeah.
And you'd walk back past Higher and come to Gasworks.
So this will be incredibly more convenient. You stop
Yes.
right here at the park,
Yes.
and then you're at this marketplace, which is going to have a ton of different tenants, right?
Mhm.
Coffee, whatever. It'll have a ton of different things to do. So is a good way to think about this first phase. This is like where the action will be, so to speak, right? You're going to have this public park, the nucleus,
This is the core.
the core.
It's the heart of the district. So these three buildings, which are four really, if you include the renovation of the Barrel Vault building, the market, the office building behind it, the apartments in the background there, and then this image is taken from our E3 block, which we've just named. And yeah, there's a construction shot. So together, there's about 80,000 square feet of retail.
That's right.
And that'll really be the nucleus of the project.
Amazing.
Yeah. And the placemaking as well, with the park and the streetcar stop and everything. So yeah, it's really intended to be the trigger for the rest of the development, to sort of create the there.
And the reason you would build this first is because it supports the rest of the district, right? It's like the reason why you would build another apartment complex here, or a condominium maybe one day, and people would want to live there, is because of these amazing amenities they've got right out their door. So that's the strategy. Like, build this sort of nucleus, this core first.
That's right. We have 10 blocks to go and another 4.5 million square feet. And to put that in context, that's how much Water Street has built.
Right.
So that's left. We have 1.5 million under construction or built between so there's quite a long ways to go. But I mean, I think you saw that in the Heights with the armature, how much of an anchor that created, and it supported residential and office and retail around it. It's the same idea.
And it's kind of crazy too to see like the overall neighborhood up there change, like the private investment and the home builders. And I've talked to people that have moved to Tampa in the last few years that have really high paying jobs. That's where they want to live. Like, they want to be in the Heights, Riverside Heights, Tampa Heights, that whole area over there.
Amazing change in 10 years.
Amazing change. And so for Ybor City, you're anticipating the same change too, where you've created this core area, these neighborhood and really city and regional amenities. And you guys, and I've had Darryl on the show and different people talking about this, it's like, it's not all Gasworx, right? You want these other businesses to come into the district. You want people to buy a little house and kind of fix it up and be a part of it, right? Like, it kind of takes the entire community to make this whole thing work.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about Ybor. I talk to people and they think Gasworx is Ybor. Other way, Gasworx is a relatively tiny pocket of Ybor, in the southwest corner, and there's an amazing stock of housing already in Ybor, and a lot more vacant industrial land if you look at an aerial. So we think there's an amazing amount more opportunity here, and we hope to be able to kind of help support the existing businesses that are already in Ybor by bringing households and really creating something that's synergistic with what's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things we talked about early on with Darryl as well was, we don't want to compete with Ybor in any way. We don't want to draw people away from 7th Avenue. This is really intended more to actually raise the tide for everyone, right? It's gonna bring more residents, more office workers, more tourists, all coming to. Maybe they're coming to Gasworx, but then guess what? They're going to walk 2 blocks and go use the businesses on 7th Avenue as well.
Yeah, it's an addition.
Right.
Rather than a replacement.
Yeah.
And that's explained very well in that picture David showed us. Like, when you look at the old picture of this area, there's nothing being torn down and rebuilt. This is being added to the district. The interesting thing is this marketplace. So that's a pretty large building, right? I mean, in comparison to Armature Works, just so I and other people can understand the size of it, is it about the same size as that Armature Works building?
It's 28,000 feet. Armature, I was pulling these stats this morning because I didn't know. I believe Armature is around 75,000, 80,000 square
Including
feet.
their event space.
What's that? I
That
think
includes
so.
the event space.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they have that big event space there as well.
Got it.
Which,
So footprint wise, maybe this marketplace here in Gasworx is a third or so the size.
it probably makes sense
But the
because
surrounding and the buildings around here are 80,000, the same amount of square footage. It's just not all in the market.
Got it.
Yeah. This was an entire city block originally. Entire city block in Ybor was 70,000 square feet. I presume it's probably the same at Armature Works. So it's probably around that. We obviously used the one side of this block, though, to build the new office building, which is what you see there coming up behind it. And then we're also opening up portions of the warehouse. So not the entirety of the warehouse is going to be indoor conditioned space. It's going to be kind of a combination of indoor, outdoor. Some of it's shaded, some of it's sort of entirely exposed. But really wanted to kind of make it very porous, so that people walking by, even if they're not intending to go in, they just feel like they need to go in.
Right. So it'll feel very open air.
Mm-hmm.
And then that front portion of it, this is a good picture.
This is the
David,
front
hold
portion,
here.
exactly.
So,
Sure.
so this area on top you can see that's exposed. That's going to be carved out. Then you'll preserve this facade in the front. So it's like I mean, I guess you could think of it like a huge front porch type thing. And this looks very wide too. Like this is a really generous size space here.
It is. It's essentially 40 feet here you're looking at, and so you'd have about the first 20 feet would be designated sort of cafe space for the businesses inside. The other 20 feet would be essentially public space.
And you added the roosters to the
That's
rendering
right.
too.
Absolutely.
And you're looking out at the park, by the way. You see the umbrellas back there. That's the park space.
It's what's interesting to me is this will become something we don't currently have. Like I think in the same way Water Street is completely novel. Like you go there and it's like, whoa, like this is completely brand new. Every place you look didn't exist before that development. Go back to that picture, David. Like in the same way, like if I'm sitting here enjoying a little cappuccino or whatever, like look around. You've got a new park, this new building you're in. Like every piece of it is a new experience. I think what's ultra interesting though, like we said about earlier, is it incorporates some of that history, right? Like this building. Do you guys know the history of the building at all itself? Yeah,
Yeah, it was built in 1950s.
50s.
It was used predominantly as a roofing supply warehouse. And then in more recent years, it was just used for various warehousing purposes. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's
it's very Ybor though.
Really cool bones. You go in there.
Yeah, right.
The first time I went into it, I don't know how many years ago with Darryl, it was like the wood ceilings, which we're restoring all of that, all the structure. We're really taking it back to its really original bones and then filling in the inside and
So you'll have the original wood, you've got the original brick. So you'll kind of be in this, you'll know where you are, but it'll be a new iteration. Like you'll see the brick, it'll kind of feel very Ybor, but then you'll see these new buildings, these new shops, these new businesses, new park, all the above. Yeah, it's super exciting. And when you're looking at this whole thing holistically, like going back to what you said, James, about how the entitlements to go are about the size of Water Street currently built out. Have you figured out what is going to be built throughout this entire timeline? Like how much of it is dependent on how the community accept this and the market demand, or is there like a vision you're headed towards with a timetable?
I mean, we have a vision that was presented in the original zoning. So that was, now already 3 years ago. But that was essentially a placeholder of what we thought at the time could be the right mixture of density. The great thing about the zoning that we have is that things are changeable without having to go back through the whole process. So as an example, we could take a tower that we had originally thought was a residential and make it office or hotel. There's a stuff in the background there that we have to do in terms of traffic analysis, but essentially we have a lot of freedom to react to the market, which is huge. And that was another very compelling piece of this project for us as a company, because with 6 million square feet, you're not going to build it in 2 or 3 years, right? It's a 10-15 year project.
But everything, these towers here, nothing's designed.
Right.
So this is purely conceptual for entitlements. And of course, we don't have to use all that density. We don't have to do any of that. But we have, as Graham said, we generally want to have, 1 or 2 buildings going at a time. That's just that's sustainable for us. We've got 10 remaining blocks. And, we kind of have a vision of what the next few blocks look like. And, more to come on that soon. But, Garrett, you mentioned earlier, the condos, hotel. I mean, these are all things, more retail, more office. We've had great success with the office building that we built, which is a relatively small building for today's, office place. So there's a lot more to fill in, but we need to kind of respond to the market. But at the same time, we're kind of in the next thoughts of like what those next blocks look like.
Right.
And David, that picture where you could see those high rises, so these are representations maybe of the entitlements, not of the design or what these will necessarily be.
Right.
What is entitled? I mean, you can go that vertical with your current entitlements.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So you can go pretty tall.
South of 3rd. Yep.
South of 3rd, which is out of the historic district.
That's right.
And directly north of the Selman Expressway. And David, pull up that picture. Do you know how tall you could go here, stories or feet wise? I mean, this looks like, significant.
Yeah, it's limited by FAA requirements from Davis Island
Ah,
Airport.
Much like Water Street was.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're probably going to, be talking about 30-story-ish max.
Boy, imagine the view though, right?
Mhm.
We've never seen that view. There's never been a high rise in that area. You've got some stuff in Channelside, but I was up on, I went to what is it? E2, right? Next to the marketplace, the
The
new
office building, yep.
And the view is incredible. Like
Yeah.
you really have this unique perspective. And that I believe is only 100 feet, 90 feet or so up in the air.
Yeah, not even, I think. It's only a 6-story building.
6-story building. And so you can imagine when you start to get up 20, 30 stories, your view, I mean, you'll be able to see the whole city, St. Pete. And then what an interesting perspective of the historic district too.
We topped off on that last week, 2 weeks ago.
Is this my video, David? Did I send this to you? No, this is yeah, look at this. Like, how cool is that? Now, this will be blocked largely, right? Because you've got a taller building on the south side, which is E3, right?
Immediately south, it's a 12-story residential building, which is just coming out of the ground. I mean, it's on the order of second, third floor now.
Yep.
But I mean, I would just say, just driving up to Selma the other day, I was like, how
Suddenly it's
visible
there.
the 6-story building is.
Right.
It's very noticeable. And it steps there in the historic district, right, from the 4 to 6 stories. That's the line of height that the historic district allowed.
The line goes through the marketplace, correct?
Yeah,
David,
exactly.
David, rewind just a little bit, because that was an interesting shot where you could see, like right here, pause right here. So these buildings, right, the way we're looking on the right side of the screen would be north, right? So these buildings, you can actually see the step, and that's obviously intentional, right? It's like this integration into a historic district. You've got the more modern skyscrapers one day stepping down into the historic district.
It was a part of our, interaction with the Barrio Latino to sort of come up with a plan that, again, respects the historic district. Yeah, it's interesting, these old lots, if you go back and look at the original surveys and plats, they all had alleyways platted in the center of the block. So that's why the historic district line goes through the middle of the block. But, today it makes no sense.
It would be nice to utilize them more though, because they can give you such a great design on the street. If you don't have to have the big garage and the parking and all that, you can get a better facade. But I know that comes with challenges. People with like a Tahoe are going to have a hard time getting back there.
There's a nice roof terrace there on that. What is the 5th floor, the roof of the 4th floor that will be activated? We have a restaurant tenant, cocktail bar on that floor in the office building, which it was just funny. Like when I came on board, I was like, oh man, I'm very nervous about this bar being in the office building. Are the tenants going to accept that? Every tenant wants to be on that floor.
Really?
They're so excited about the ability to go there, bring people in, have it after work, and we have a really great operator that we'll be able to talk about soon that is running that, and we're pretty excited about it.
What did you say? Octobar? Something like that?
I said operator.
Operator. Bar operator.
Bar operator. Yeah.
Like
we combine the words.
It's kind of a cool name, I guess.
Maybe that's it.
So that will be a amenity only for the office or open to the public?
Open to the public.
Very cool.
And then
Very
part of that roof terrace will include a private area for the office tenants also. And then you can see there's some of the office floors have the outdoor terraces.
Did I send you, David, that picture of the facade? They've got delivered these pieces here. These, I don't know, what is it? A copper precast.
Precast concrete, yeah.
Precast concrete. The quality, like when you look at this picture, this is exceptional design, right? This is sort of above and beyond what you had to do here.
S9 architects with Smallwood.
Yeah, very good looking. But when you see these pieces, these precast pieces in person, and you see how large they are and the dimension of the blocks that are in there, it's like, whoa, this is going to look super significant. Like this isn't just going to be like your typical development you see across Florida. Like this, there's a lot more intention going into this
again,
design.
it goes back to, trying to integrate into Ybor, right? And one of the things that's kind of interesting about this building, S9 was really kind of smart about doing, is it's thinking about a language that sort of like has an Ybor feel to it, but obviously is very contemporary too, right?
Yeah.
And even the color you think, well, maybe that's an interesting color, but if you go around Ybor, you start to see there's pieces of green copper, green metal. It's sort of an interesting feel.
And the scale of this, right? Like
Yeah.
this is a huge piece. I'm
you can see the
over
person
6
standing
feet
behind
tall.
that.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
even come up to the middle of this. Like this is a very large piece.
That's right.
But look at the design. Like this is something like you would see in Washington, D.C. or New York City. Taking the design that far, is there a bet on quality here? Like with Water Street, you had this bet on exceptionalism. Like even the landscaping are mature trees in Water Street.
Yeah.
Like everything about it had a quality emphasis. Are you taking some of those same theories into this development with quality? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, I think Water Street, fortunately for us, kind of proof of concept.
Yeah.
And I think also now what we're seeing in the market when it comes to office, at least, is that there's very little space available, right? Especially first generation space. And, tenants want to be in a neighborhood. They want to be in a place where where they can recruit
Right.
and have particularly younger workers be in a place where it's very dynamic and there's places to go to eat and there's great walkable streets nearby. So, I think this is sort of just consistent with kind of what we're trying to do in terms of not only the visual appeal of the place, but also behind that there is a sort of a targeting of the right sort of markets for tenancy that we're trying to bring in.
They're willing to pay for. I mean, so 2016 downtown Tampa office rents in West Shore were in the mid-high 30 rent per foot range, full service. We needed to be for new buildings in Water Street around low mid 50s, and they were able to finish out in the mid high 60s. And in order to build a building like this today, rents need to be in the 70s and generally, and 60s to 70s, and tenants are willing to pay that quality premium to be in. The flight to quality is what we hear a lot in terms of the environment and the type of spaces. First gen space, like Graham said, that are more efficient spaces that are designed for today's lifestyle. Downtown office buildings can be very depressing to a lot of people. Going up in your, and it's like, how do you, there's an opportunity, and we're seeing a lot of tenants coming from the downtown markets into these types of buildings, and then those spaces are being successfully backfilled. Heard a really incredible stat today about Tampa being like the third most active market in the country per capita, and that's pretty incredible.
And also less space too.
Yeah.
So people are willing to pay that extra per square foot because they're just taking less space.
Right. Yeah, kind of gone are the days of the huge multi-floor lease with the cubicles. It's,
Right.
Another thing too, the amenities on all these new office buildings and these sort of districted developments seem to be outside of the building. Like the traditional office building had the little gym and the haircut spot,
Right.
all, the Bank of them, all these buildings downtown. Now it seems like developers are recognizing the employers are recognizing we want our employees to like leave work and get a beer and hang out or go to a Pilates class before
Right.
work or whatever. Sounds like that was the intention here, right?
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
the draw of leasing an office here is your employees have so much to do outside of the building.
Yeah. And that's how you recruit, right? Because people want to, if they're going to come back to an office and they want to, they're going to sit in an office all day long, they want to be in a place where at lunchtime they can go out and have a nice experience.
Let me
Walk
ask you
home.
this.
Yeah.
Why? So you see the headlines about office all around the country. It's not good. Vacancies, et cetera. Why do office in this development? Why not create more residential right here?
Well, there's a demand for office in Tampa because it wasn't overbuilt like a lot of other markets. Like both of us going from DC, no one's, building any sort of speculative office building anytime in any sort of new build is years away from making sense. So Tampa's, we didn't overbuild. You have these authentic, neighborhoods, and there's a demand for new office space. A lot of people moving here. So it's hard to look at those macro headlines around office around the country that don't apply here and don't apply to some of our, peer cities. So, and for us, it's really important to have those mix of uses. We could build apartments here all day long,
Yeah.
I mean, another thing, we saw, a mile away was just having those office workers here, really help support the retail too. And there's so many synergies in the parking and, all those other things that
Right.
a mixed use district, having the right mix of uses that also hotel and other uses create. And there's value add in that to the experience, to the quality of life of those living and working there and visiting there, but also, in the actual monetary side of that.
That's right.
And when you're talking to employers and, I would assume they fly down or you fly up and kind of show them what's to come, what's their reaction to something like this if it's not being built in these other large markets? Because the eyes are on Florida, right? A lot of employers are looking at Florida. Mm-hmm. A lot of people just in general are looking at moving here. What's the reaction kind of in the market with these employers when they see a project like this?
Well, again, like I said, I think it really, from the employer's perspective, they're thinking about their office space as a recruitment tool, right? Like how does, not so much, and this is kind of an interesting, I think, maybe shift in the way of thinking, because I think that, traditionally the office space was the whim of the CEO, right? Like I want to be near my house and I want to have like, palatial space.
Right.
And I don't care about the employees. Now it's more about like, well, how do I make sure I'm locating in an area, but also in a building that offers a lifestyle, frankly.
Yeah.
The merger of residential and office and hospitality is just continuous.
Yeah.
It used to be that you lived here and you worked there. And,
Right.
But, the hospitality thing in multifamily has been going on now for 20 years plus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then Grow Financial is a perfect example, right? They're leaving their campus, which is your kind of traditional suburban. It's got the big parking lot. You drive in, you get your coffee. It's got the cubicles. This will be a completely different experience for those employees. And I would assume are they coming into this building here?
Mm-hmm.
They are. And how many square feet are they taking of this building?
Around 50,000.
Two
Two entire floors.
Do you know how many employees will work in this location?
I don't. I think
Graham gave a tour yesterday. They're very happy.
I told the CEO and they were really excited. I mean, I think, and again, like a lot of other employers, also their demand for space is fluctuates, right? Some days they need more space. Other days, a lot of people working from home. They have a lot of folks, because of the nature of their business, they have a lot of folks that are, in credit unions across the country or across the state at least. And so they come in occasionally for big meetings, and so they need more space then. But I think, it's definitely, to sort of piggyback on what we were talking about earlier, I think the other great thing about adding an office component into the mixed use is the daytime population, the foot traffic, the fact that these retail businesses aren't going to be sitting there waiting till like 5 o'clock when everyone comes home.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about Grow too is, they're in the suburban office building that you mentioned. The sheriff's office, which is in Ybor, is moving into that building, which is a better probably use for them and for that building. And there's some potential development that can happen around it, which is freeing up 6 blocks of other non-historic buildings in Ybor to be redeveloped. And that, Darryl that's something he's been working on for a number of years. So Grow's moving into this new, more modern workplace opened up a lot of other opportunity in the market as well.
And when you toured around with the CEO, I mean, was he just excited to get moved in and get going?
Yeah, no, they're ready. I mean, they actually moved. They've already moved from Brandon. They've temporarily got a space there next door, and
right,
exactly. You can see it right there.
Yeah. So they've already got employees kind of like, oh, this is cool.
They're watching their project.
They're already in. They're all in on Ybor. Yep.
It makes sense, like with all of the virtual, work at home and just the way people live now. Kind of the Americans' work culture has shifted so much in the last decade, really 5 years. It kind of makes sense that this product is going to be ultra popular, probably for a long time. Like I would imagine this is not the only office component you're thinking about as you move forward.
Oh, we're thinking of, more. And that was a topic I was talking about with a group this morning, and there's a lot of opportunity there, and we all see it. So,
And so this office building in particular, the total square footage is what?
It's right about 100,000 square feet.
So Grow Financial is taking about half. Yeah. And are you getting interest from any surprising markets, like a market all the way out west is looking to relocate here? I mean, have you had any surprising inbound about this project? I mean, for this office, but any retailer at all?
Um, I wouldn't say necessarily. I think, one of the things that's sort of interesting for us in both retail and office is that the story of Gasworks is totally known now across Tampa Bay, right? So people are coming to us now in terms of, expressing interest. I think regionally there is now becoming an awareness. And so we are getting a lot of retail prospects from places like New York or Atlanta or other parts of Florida. So that's happening. I think for the office, I've not heard of any sort of large out of state folks looking yet, but those tend to be kind of rare anyway. I think
They come. We had the EDCs meeting with us, so they have some prospects coming in from out of market. I would say it was an office panel this morning with, heard a lot of things that were really interesting. And I didn't know the stat, but 25% of the tenants in, down the street were out of market. 75% were, which was about 300,000 feet, were from the market. We're seeing the same thing here, but what I find interesting is that they're coming from like West Shore and they had been there for 25 years. Coming from, I view West Shore as a very different type of place than what Gasworks and Ybor is.
Right.
So the fact that some of these professional services firms want to make that change says a lot. And what's typically happening, I think, is a lot of the nationals are coming in or taking the second gen or third gen space, and those who are local businesses that have been here for a long time are doing that flight to quality and kind of moving to spaces where they can recruit better. So that was a really interesting stat I heard. There's 3 million square feet of absorption last year in Tampa Bay moving around, but it's the existing Tampa businesses that are taking, for the most part, the newer spaces.
And Grow Financial is a good example again, because it sounds like they made a commitment very early. Like it sounds like they saw this opportunity and jumped on it. They're like, we're in.
They allowed the job to move forward. We wouldn't have built a 100,000 square foot building without an anchor tenant like that.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. So I had on Jim Moeller, who is a commercial real estate broker who focuses on office.
He's our broker for this.
There you go. Perfect. It's perfect. I'm glad I brought him up. And so he said that in the first quarter of this year, there was more office leases signed in Tampa Bay than in Manhattan. Now, there was 2 leases in particular that kind of bumped those numbers up, but still a shocking fact. Do you anticipate in the long run companies relocating from across the country to this market for this? And what are you calling it again? Class A office space, but you said something trophy, amenity driven.
Yeah. Well, flight to quality,
all those kind of things. This sort of niche of office.
Well, I think you see a similar thing sometimes in the residential too, right? Insofar as the early adopters tend to be local, right? Because they get it.
Right.
They've been tracking this stuff for a while, and they see what's coming, and they know and love Ybor. Whereas people who are not as familiar, maybe it takes a little longer to sort of see. But I mean, having said all that, I think to me what was interesting was again the Water Street experience and just how quickly out of town people, particularly on the residential side, probably because it actually more represented something they were familiar with in some respects. People come from New York and the Northeast. We're just like, yep, that's my home.
We're in. Yeah.
Yeah. I will definitely see it. I mean, it took people those out of market folks under time to understand Tampa and see it as a legitimate peer to other markets they may be looking at when they're looking to relocate. And that's definitely happened. So I think now we're struggling with, there's a lack of space for them. So you don't even get on the radar because the space isn't there for them to move into in their time frame they're looking at, right? So we don't have glut of supply of new space in the market like other submarkets or other markets do.
What do we have really? I mean, you've got sounds like 50,000 available here to lease.
Correct.
But
about half of that is in activity right now. So I mean, really all of it.
So probably will be filled up. Hopefully relatively soon for you guys. And then I believe 1001 is fully leased or 90+%, which is incredible. I know Ellison's doing a project in St. Pete. They've got some Class A office space, but other than that, very,
Midtown's tapped out. Yeah.
Yep.
is that kind of it in terms of supply for
Existing,
this?
yeah.
Wow.
I mean, there's planned office building. Of course, Water Street has another office, they've toyed around with, and the Heights and others. But like,
Right.
if you're looking for space right now, there isn't very much.
James, I want to talk about your experience with Water Street moving into Gasworks, right? So you've been on board with Kettler for a few months now, correct? But like you said in the beginning, you kind of had a relationship with these guys and everybody for years. What are some lessons learned, like negatives and positives, that you've brought in with you with your experience into Kettler?
There's hundreds of things.
David, take the rest of the day off. We gotta talk.
Hundreds of positive or negatives.
Both. I mean, Water Street was a great experiment, a huge experiment, right? And fortunately we had great capital and resources behind us to realize that, and Jeff and Cascade were huge, obviously, champions of doing that and believed in the market. And we had the first gen of retailers and office tenants we were looking at. We were saying in 2019, 2018, they did not want to be downtown. They didn't understand it. It wasn't kind of their. And now there's proof of concept, but there's so many things that you always know that you can do better, right? And I'm living in Water Street right now, and one of I think I've lived in all three of the buildings there, so I like to experience them, right? So, I and the consumer is changing and adapting, and nowadays we have affordability is even more of a challenge, and so it's a constantly moving target. And it just takes a lot of listening to the consumer, and the consumer may be an office tenant, a retail tenant. We have tons of really amazing retail tenant traffic that we have right now. We have a really great retail brokerage team and Archer and JPRE that are kind of combined, and we're very, very heavily locally focused. But of course, we'll have national and regional players that make sense in the overall mix. So listening to them and listening to their lessons learned in other places and markets they've been in. So I would say just a lot of it is just around the public realm and the connectivity at a high level. And then in terms of creating the right diversification of products, so to speak, in different types of buildings and places and experience. And then knowing what's ahead of us. And I mean, you asked a question earlier, what are the next, we have it in our head, kind of what could be, but that's going to continue to change. And then you have sites like Ybor Harbor to the south of us that Darryl's entitled for over 6 million square feet, 33 acres. There's another, 75 acres around us that are, for the most part, blighted industrial property that are immediately adjacent. So there's a lot of runway for opportunity in the downtown core, and we're just going to take it day by day. So
This is the very beginning at what's to come. This sort of first nucleus of Gasworks. Yeah. You mentioned, Graham, you were talking about the residential side of it and the demand. How's it going at La Union? I know David's you're number 35 there, but
we thank him.
Yeah, traffic seems to be picking up. Like I noticed, there's a lot more action, a lot more people living over there. Has it been? How has the lease up been?
It's been great. I mean, it's been one of our fastest lease ups as a company.
In 50 years.
50 years, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
One of your fastest lease ups is La Union.
And that includes, by the way, I'm not sure when they started measuring from. So we delivered this building in September of last year. And if you recall, what happened immediately after that was Hurricane Milton. So we really had probably a whole 30 days of kind of downtime on the leasing front because obviously everyone was just distracted. But really from sort of November of last year, so 12 months, we're now up to 93% leased.
Wow.
Which is more or less stabilized. 95 is basically stabilized. So it's been a phenomenal, and again, talking about proof of concept, this is another one, right? So this is on the west side of Gasworks. It's not necessarily, right next to all the existing action in Ybor, right? So people have to kind of walk a little distance to get to 7th Avenue, but obviously people love this location and want to be here. And so you can see the second building coming up behind that. That's opening up in probably March of next year.
Stevedore.
Stevedore, yep. So we got a name for that. That's the Stevedore, named after the longshoremen and the dock workers, which again, were very active in this area back in the day.
That was the longshoremen were part owners of the Tampa
Yeah,
Parks,
the
right?
Longshoremen's Union was a partner in that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How much work went into, like, how did you select these names? How did you learn the history of all these places?
Yeah, so we have a great head of marketing, Gabby Soriano, and she's
Shout out,
really,
Gabby.
yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about history, and she's spent an incredible amount of time over at the History Center talking to Rodney Kite Powell about, like,
Yeah.
what were the different sort of experiences of these different places, 50, 60, 100 years ago. So yeah, so it's all been, that again, that's one of the ways I think that we've tried to sort of connect to the past as well, right? I mean, sometimes it's a little hard through building a contemporary building with codes and everything to kind
Yeah.
of make it look and feel like a historic building, but there are nods certainly with the brick and the metal balconies, and then with the names, and then with that name also we can then sort of internally, use that as part of the branding, but also part of the education really of the residents, like, hey, you're living in a historic place.
Yes.
And this is why this building's called the Stevedore.
I think that's there's something that is very important about moving along the history as we get more people moving here from all over the country.
Yeah.
And David came from Washington. You've probably, it would actually be interesting to know, like, how many of your tenants are not from the Tampa Bay region. I'm sure you have people that are local that are like, I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
But those people that move here from other places, they don't have any idea about these names and these stories. And so if you can even get a few of them to pay attention to
Right.
the name
That's right.
and to learn that history, man, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's how we save a lot of what we have now as we move into the future.
Yeah.
So I'm really thankful you guys took the
And-
time and the intention to do that.
Yeah, most people are genuinely interested in that too, right? I mean, I think, we put a small display in La Union on the first floor that talks about the Marty Museo Club, which was originally located there. And it's got some great old photographs. So people just enjoy experiencing that.
It's also just the cool factor,
Yeah.
right? Like, what makes someone choose something like this to live here versus XYZ apartment anywhere else?
With a
And
completely fabricated name.
completely fabricated with
Yeah.
like neon orange and blue and palm trees and the
Yeah.
classic Florida thing. This presents something unique that I think in Florida in particular is very hard to find. When you go to DC, Chicago, some of these bigger markets, everywhere they have the luxury of time and history and cool districts, but we have a story too, right? And so for people to come here and experience it, man, I'm sure it's not really that surprising that La Union was leased up as quick as it was. With La Union and the parking question. So Water Street, I think a lot of people were anticipating a new building coming up, and the parking garage was, I guess, proposed. That's what's moving forward, right? So maybe one of the lessons in that was like, hey, we need more parking, right?
That's right. I mean, I think it's important to note there was a large office building planned at 400 Channelside, and it had a 2,000 car parking garage. That garage was meant to be the retail garage for Water Street. So when that anchor tenant, national tenant, pulled out at the 11th hour, it affected our timing and our phasing. So we didn't have enough retail and public parking. So yes, absolutely, tons of lessons learned around parking and access. But there were reasons for that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And one of the issues currently that David and I have talked about with living at La Union is obviously right now it's this huge construction site. And the connectivity from these buildings as we sit right now to Channelside and to Ybor is a little difficult, which will only improve. But are you finding people that live in these apartments are choosing to get out and walk more to coffee shops on 7th, or are you still seeing the same level of parking needs in La Union and these buildings in particular versus any other random standard apartment building?
Yeah, I'd say La Union, the parking is exactly kind of what we expect from a typical apartment.
It may be too early though.
Sorry?
It may be too early
To give
be
a
able to
full
tell.
answer. Yeah.
Right, because a lot of people may still be relying on their car a bit more than they will in 5 to 10 years from now.
We've got a new trolley stop
Yeah.
coming, right? There's these things that will increase the probability people won't rely on the car as much as the development moves forward.
That's right.
I mean, one thing I've noticed living again in Water Street was that most of 80% of those cars do not move during the day.
Yeah.
Like they're
Yeah.
getting to work one way or another,
Right.
and it's not driving. So
Yeah. In terms of connectivity, I think one thing that's important to point out is Fourth Avenue will connect straight through, and you can see where it kind of there's an existing Fourth Avenue between La Union and Stevedore. So there will be that physical connection plus the park where the roundabout is. So just psychologically as well, you'll look out the window and you'll see the park on the other side of New City Parkway. I think these buildings are gonna feel a lot more connected here in the next 12 months.
And the reason why these were built first was to get residents in the area, I would assume,
Yes.
right? Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think currently you've got that crosswalk right below Third Avenue. You can kind of see it. David, that's your kind of current access for you to go. So what you're saying is this Fourth Avenue will cut straight through
Yep.
to this other street where it connects with Scott.
Mm-hmm.
See, that'll be a game changer. That'll be much easier. It's
It'll
weird.
go straight across.
Go straight, yeah,
through that parking
Straight
lot.
through. We got a laser pointer here, right there.
Yeah.
So James, we talked when you were on the show last about like streetscapes and placemaking. It's funny how, the difference between connecting Fourth and the current crosswalk. I mean, it's, I guess, hard to say from an aerial, but 100 feet, let's just say. In placemaking, it's kind of funny, like human nature. Humans will take the path of least resistance. People will drive and circle a block 10 times just to find a parking spot like 10 feet closer. In terms of like the design of this, like there's a huge emphasis I can tell obviously on the streets, the walkability, the shaded trees and everything you guys are doing. James, talk to me about some of that connectivity and placemaking and what you envision this district to be built out. Do you think every part of this people will be walking around in? And
Well, I had no part in this master plan. I wish I did. But Graham and as mentioned, Sasaki, who's a tremendous world renowned planner, did, and I would see bits and pieces, through Darryl. No, I mean, I think Ybor's blessed with these amazing block sizes, 200 by 350 feet, and the grid and restoration, and we were trying to recreate all that down the street, which didn't have that, and how the public realm and this public space and the Paseo integrated. And then we have 10 more blocks of that and connecting down to the waterfront and Ybor Harbor and connecting down to the Riverwalk through the Meridian Greenway, which are all things underway, are like tremendous foundational elements that are going to really set this apart. So then on top of that, our team, Graham, you can talk much more to it, obviously, just in terms of the thoughtfulness of the, the landscape and the like what you feel in that first 30 feet, as a pedestrian walking around the district.
yeah, Graham, what is it going to feel like to come down here and experience this area as a pedestrian?
It's interesting. Even for me, I've been working on this now for 7 years. It already feels different.
Yeah.
So when I walk between the buildings that are still only like 3-4 stories tall, it's starting to frame the street and the experience. A lot of these images, a lot of these maps, they don't quite convey the level of intimacy. And I think that's what people are going to really, really sort of appreciate, is that it's going to have that sort of, intimacy. It's going to have that kind of close in feel where, everything's going to be within a very short distance of everything.
Old world and like almost European, like when you travel overseas, and you're from England, I know.
Yes.
So obviously, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, when you go to London, they don't have the 6-lane highway and even in their most activated urban areas, it's smaller streets, it's the shops and the sidewalks. And that's kind of what you've expressed here, but while not changing the grid, right? Like Ybor has always had that grid, which, was, like we said earlier, sort of destroyed, and then it was industrial and never really got going. But thank God it's there, because now you can use it for this future development.
Right. Yeah.
So this will feel, as we see it here, intimate, very pedestrian friendly.
Yeah, and I think probably even more people. And I think hopefully it's sort of like we talked a little bit about intentional congestion. Like congestion isn't necessarily a bad thing because it means a lot of people want to be in the place, right? I think Water Street's done a great job of that. Like when you go to Water Street, the sidewalks are full of people all
Full
the
of
time.
people,
All
yeah.
the time. It's great.
We worried about the width of the sidewalks, and now we wish they were wider, in a lot of ways. But this is the Paseo. This is the actual image down, which is third. You're looking at the stevedore in the background. So that point of like, Seaboard may feel like it's miles and miles away today. It's going to be right there.
Right there.
So those living there, this is the market to the right. Those are envisioned to be all restaurant spaces that we're talking to some great restaurateurs right now for. On the left side is our residential block that is just lined with retail. So this is meant to be like a really wonderful outdoor retail shopping experience with residences above.
And for people who are going to be leasing at the Stevedore and La Union and these other apartment complexes, do you have the pricing yet on some of this stuff? Maybe not in your head, but what I wanted to talk about was, it kind of makes sense if someone would spend a little bit more money to live in an area like this. I mean, look what you have outside in your own neighborhood. Like, this is actually pretty crazy to walk out your front door and have this access, versus you're living in a suburban community in an apartment complex with a parking garage. You're getting in your car and commuting here. Like, I would almost anticipate people would be willing to put up more money and maybe drive less just to live in a community like this. Because in Tampa and really a lot of areas around Florida and really around the country, you're seeing this shift back to these urban amenities. Like we talked earlier about how offices have that same thing. Well, people want that same thing in their head. They want to be able to walk outside and have all these amenities.
That's right.
Is there going to be a huge discrepancy in price between a brand new apartment building out in the suburbs and a brand new apartment building here?
I mean, you can see La Union kind of where rents are, where they've kind of stabilized today, and Stevedore is going to build off of that. I would say for us, we're very much focused on just the different types of people that we want and can, and we hope to live here. Right. And because these are, the first projects, as you mentioned, they're a little removed from the hubbub. Some people psychographically may prefer that, right?
Sure.
These are wood frame buildings, brick, how the historic buildings were built. And these will, likely be a little discounted from some of the newer high-rise concrete, buildings that are going in. But, we spent a lot of time thinking about this is, again, the consumer and who they are and how they're adapting and the efficiency and the livability of their homes and how to improve on that model. I think for many years, developers, I think here's the standard floor plan we've done for 25 years. Here we go. And trying to rethink that in a way that is adapted for today's renter, you know, and doing so in a way that's obviously more, ideally, obviously affordable and hitting where affordability needs and targets are.
Yeah, I think there's always been, and James knows this from his time in DC as well, because DC, I think, sort of recognized this. It's a much bigger metropolitan area.
Sure.
The suburbs are way, way out. But people sort of forget that affordability is a combination of housing and transportation, right? The cost of transportation kind of gets lost in the discussion sometimes. If you're living here, even if you still need a car, you want to park that car in the garage and use it twice a week, you're not spending nearly as much on gas and maintenance, and because you're not using the car. Eventually, some people, when everything's kind of in place and everything's kind of walkable, you might just give up your car and use Uber. So I think there's, and you compare that versus suburban. Okay, well, suburban, maybe the price of rent is much lower, but you're paying a ton more in both time and money to commute every day.
Time's a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, half hour there and back, that's an hour of your day.
Yeah.
Versus this. So let me ask you another question. Have you talked to Grow Financial? Have any of their people leased at Gasworx to live and work in the same district?
I think I'm pretty sure our team has that. I don't, but
that would be really, really interesting to kind of track the different businesses, retailers and office, their employees, if they would consider also living in the district, because that's what Ybor was 120 years ago. Like, that's how this community was founded, like live, work, play. It was really the original live, work, play, right? my family had a little hardware store. Other families had bakeries and grocers, and they would all live in the district. And it sounds like that's what you all are envisioning for this as well.
Yes. Absolutely. It's already happening in other, neighborhoods around. Sorry. So.
Amazing.
And I will say that one of the reasons Grow did sign the lease with us was because they saw that we would build residential at the same time. So it was intentional. In fact, they frankly made it one of the conditions, like, hey, don't just build this office building, right? You're going to build the residential next door because we need that.
So they wanted the residential, and they also wanted these other, the marketplace and everything.
Yes, it's the full package. Yeah.
So in their assessment of this, it really wasn't just about the office. It was about what you are delivering in terms of a neighborhood.
Right. Yeah, I don't think they would have wanted to move into that building just standing there on its own.
Just standing there on its own.
Yeah.
7th Avenue didn't have enough for them.
Not today.
And then duckweed coming to La Union, right? So that's kind of a game changer too. I know David's been like dying for that.
Yeah.
When is that anticipated to open?
Early next year.
Yeah, should be next year.
Sometime early next year.
Yeah,
that's
they're
exciting.
going through the process that everyone goes through, permitting and plans, and but that's what they're working towards.
Yeah.
But that's another great amenity for those apartments. You walk downstairs, you get a couple little pack of eggs and butter, and you got what you need. And that is a value in itself, like we just talked about.
And I think some of the stuff, again, we can't unfortunately announce today, but in the coming months, the tenants that we're going to be announcing for the rest of the retail, I think it's really going to get people excited. And, I think that's going to help drive, frankly, leasing at Stevedore, because people will be like, well, great, well, I'm going to move in today. And then 6 months from now, a year from now, there's going to be all these great additional retail.
Get people excited because of the brand itself, get people excited because of what it is.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
A little bit
all
of
the
both.
above, yeah.
Well, we will stay tuned. And then I wanted to also talk about, you've got a lot of different contractors on this job. I believe Water Street had that same model, correct? Multiple contractors, different architects, correct as well? Talk to me about that strategy. Why is that the case?
Well, I mean, Water Street in here, I mean, these are big projects, and it's hard for one contractor. Generally, contractors have their focus. So here we have what we're looking at. Moss is building the office building and the concrete high-rise building behind it. Ellison's working on the market hall. CBG, Clark Builders Group out of DC, that we have a long relationship with, is building the block on the north side. Juno built the two first buildings. So we've had a great experience with everyone. And we had a lot of great experiences with the contractors we worked with on Water Street as well. And more will go around. There's different types of spaces and venues we're already planning for the next phases, which opens the door to other players as well. So Graham, if you have anything to add to that.
No, that's right. I think, and then just obviously just good healthy competition too, right? I mean, I think we don't want to be sort of wedded to one group, whether it be a contractor, an architect, an engineering company. We'd like to keep people competitive. Yeah.
So there is a practical nature of one contractor trying to accomplish all of this.
Yeah, of this scale, for sure.
Yeah.
And different typologies too, right? I mean, the warehouse project is very different from the new construction.
Well, and like Ellison, like local contractor, they have that experience with this specific. Like, didn't they do armature works? Right, they've got this experience with kind of historic adaptive reuse.
Yep.
Right?
OE, the Sparkman Park,
right?
Exactly. The Hotel High, right? Yeah. Exactly. And Coastal and stuff. There's a lot of obviously other great firms that are around that we and many more that we've been in talk with.
And what was the firm from DC one more time? The contractor?
Oh, CBG, Clark Builders Group.
Has CBG done anything else in Tampa in the area?
They have.
They have.
Yeah.
But when you bring in a contractor like that, I know you just mentioned they've done other stuff in the area, or these other, I'm sure you've had consulting firms work out streetscapes or whatever, civil engineering, whatever it is. When they see this market, they see what you guys are doing, they see Water Street. What do they feel about this city and this region as a whole? Do they want to open up an office down here and expand operations? I had on who is it from Coastal? I think Sean
Mm-hmm.
from Coastal Construction, and he said, kind of right around the time COVID and Water Street and Related came up here and started to do some projects, there was an excitement in the air
Mm-hmm.
about laborers,
Mm-hmm.
subcontractors, construction companies seeing this market as a
Mm-hmm.
place to plant a flag
Mm-hmm.
and create long-term relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Are you finding the
Mm-hmm.
same thing?
Absolutely. And Coastal came, I mean, they're a huge firm in Miami. They came up here when Water Street started because they saw the opportunity of a large, being able to plant a flag and grow.
Right.
And I know all those guys are doing the same thing in other markets, in Florida right now that are somewhat untapped. So, there's a lot of, as Graham said, there's a lot of work to go around. There's a lot of healthy competition. We talk to all these guys almost every day, and they see, a pipeline of a lot of opportunity in Tampa.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that makes sense because there's so much more to come, right? Like it's I think from what you've described from a numbers perspective, this is maybe a fifth of the total entitlements in the area.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of business ahead.
Yeah, for sure.
And so James, when you were last on the show, we talked about like the sort of the feeling you get when you go to Water Street, right? Accomplishing a project like that. Now, I know obviously this is you're under construction, but Graham, like, what are you looking forward to? Are you going to hang out at Gasworx?
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I think this is going to be just such a great experience for people. The warehouse building obviously is just kind of such a unique sort of, part of the puzzle here. But I think all of what we've just been looking at, the different spaces, the park, the paseo, the whole vibe of the area, I think is going to be just, what we had hoped for day one, and starting to see it sort of come together now, coming out the ground. It's very rewarding, obviously, to get to this point.
7 years so far,
yeah,
you said.
And a year from now, it's going to be, pretty much game time. So it's.
I already see that. Graham toured me through the Union when my first day back, or my first day here. I got to see like the pride, there's seeing people living and being, 93% leased, and
Yeah.
and Luke, who's one of our partners who's worked with Graham on this for a long time as well. It's like a lot to be proud of. It's like, it's totally, you're improving people's lives, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And improving the city too, right? I mean, I think, downtown Tampa still has a way to go, right? And this is just a piece of the puzzle.
Right. Yeah. And the community you create too. Like David and I talk all the time about the type of people that are moving into the area. It seems like it's a lot of forward-thinking, creative people, a lot of artists, a lot of like, I've met film producers from LA that have sort of identified Ybor as this like cool new district for them to kind of be creative and meet other people and play in. David was early on at La Union, but he said like all types of people have moved in with really, really interesting backgrounds. So I think it'll be fascinating when this is all built to be at that marketplace and grab a coffee and just like people watch and feel the energy.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it'll be a lot different from Water Street in some, in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and complementary. We were referencing an article in Times the other day about the changing Tampa, and we see that as a great opportunity because there's so many different flavors and people and experiences to go around, and we love seeing the success of Water Street, and like seeing that Gasworx is a very different vibe and type of place and experience, and that the Market Hall is going to have a central bar, which we're very excited about, which obviously will drive a lot of folks in the coffee shop, but it's really intended to be more of a market too. Like I know you've had other on the show to talk about that, so. We're having some, we have a very deep list of folks that we're in very advanced stages of conversation with that fulfill that. We're not looking for another food hall. We don't need one, but providing a place that has a vibe that people want to hang out at and socialize in, and provides opportunity. There's plenty of F&B in that building. No, don't get me wrong, but and you saw the images of the outdoor and the public space, but it's a really unique space that's again kind of like the center hub of community,
and importantly, feels like Ybor.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the critical things we talked about early on was maintaining Ybor's cool factor, right? Ybor's a little funky, a little gritty. We don't want to get too far away from that.
Yeah, like you said, you've kept the kind of old wood and restoring that, and the iron, the metalwork, and the bricks. Like all of that's important to kind of set that tone.
Right.
And so this marketplace, people can expect it to be more like a borough market of London or like a Chelsea market. less than like an Armature Works food hall,
That's right.
meaning I can shop there. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just food.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You can do both.
You can do both.
Yep.
Which will activate it more, probably.
Yeah.
Although Armature Works is like crazy busy all the time.
People always want to eat.
People always want to eat. Armature
drink.
Works is interesting too because they've got so much space. Like they've got that waterfront. All the kids are hanging out
It's a
there.
riverfront.
They do a great job of
Riverfront
activating
property.
it too. And
Which I would imagine the park will kind of turn into that. You'll have people enjoying the park, coming and grabbing a little sandwich and then going back to the park.
Well, that's another important.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, that's another
here's the
important
inside.
aspect, right? Like, we also want it to be family friendly, right? This isn't just sort of an adult playground. We want it to feel like, people can come with their kids. They can go to the park, have a good time, come in here, grab an ice cream, grab a coffee, whatever. But also do some shopping too. Like, we want people to linger.
this rendering may not actually give it full justice.
No, this is a very old rendering.
Yeah, it doesn't feel. It feels, I think, much more of a market today.
Well, where could we find
This is a true, I think, but yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think the northern side of this image, the upper part of this image is much more of like the market space. Actually, even this is a little slightly dated, but it's things are moving as
Changes
we're learning.
quickly.
But the
changes quickly. Why? Changes quickly because of the feedback you get from these different operators.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a feedback loop. You're constantly trying to make sure you've got the right mix. Yeah.
But at a certain point, you've got to move forward with a plan of some sort.
Yeah, we're pretty close to that point.
The good thing is it's a warehouse. So other than the core features, bathrooms, whatever, it's somewhat adaptable and always
right.
will be. But
Always will be. So could shift over the years if needed to adapt to changing ideas or different tenants. Interesting. Very cool. Wow. And so, Graham, you mentioned at the end of next year, things will be wrapping up. So when can people expect to enjoy this nucleus here, this central core of Gasworks?
Yep. So I mentioned the Stevedore. That's actually opening up first. That's in March of next year. But that's ahead of this particular phase, which includes the 4 buildings. These are all delivering kind of in a similar time frame. So call it sort of late 2026 through mid 2027. And certainly with the residential, typically we deliver those buildings in phases anyway. So we'll deliver certain floors at a time. But the office tenants, their build out will be through the course of next year, moving in by the end of the year. And then the park as well will be sort of built in 2027 as well. So it's all, 2027 is going to be a big year for Gasworks.
Exciting.
Yeah.
And then any idea how long after that you could get rolling on some of these next pieces of this development? I mean, could it be very quick? Already are.
yeah. So
Already are in terms of like some of the, what do you mean?
plan. I mean, it takes a long time to plan, design these buildings, figure out. We do a lot of research. Feasibility, what have you. Finding partners where applicable.
Right.
Talking
Probably
to
different
retailers.
plans too, right? Like you could go this direction, you could go this direction, much like you've described for this.
A lot of testing, a lot of
So 2027, the whole thing sort of gets delivered and wrapped up and people are enjoying it. And then potentially the very next year getting going on future phases.
That's right.
Yep.
Knock on wood. Hopefully, right?
We hope to be in the ground on the next at least couple buildings in 2027.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
Very exciting.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, guys, this was great today. I thank you for sitting
Thank
with
you.
me and talking about this.
Yeah,
This is
thank you.
cool. And
Yeah.
James, congrats to you being on
Thank
board
you.
with this.
Yeah,
and
yeah. It's been a long
It's
time coming.
amazing. and Graham, you've been in, I think we talked when we were when we were on top of the building, you've been in the business, I think you said 30 years. You've been in no, longer than that.
30 years, yes.
30 years.
Yes.
And with Kettler for 10?
Kettler will be coming up on 13.
Kettler coming up on
Yeah,
13.
so
Wow.
a good chunk of that 30 years at Kettler. Yeah.
And we didn't even talk about some of the stuff around the Bay. I mean, I don't want to keep you guys too long today, but
That's
Kettler
another-
is involved in some other developments in St. Petersburg as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Yes.
So you got some stuff going over there. And with this project and with the faith you guys have in this market, Kettler's not going anywhere.
No.
No. I mean, I think part of the reason we're bringing James on is the future for Florida with Kettler is very, very strong. And we're looking at all kinds of markets across the state, not just Tampa.
Yeah, we're a national company. We're right now our footprint, our development footprint spans from the DC, Virginia, Maryland area, down to the Carolinas, into Florida. Our management platform extends all the way out to the west. So we're out in Utah and Arizona and Texas. I think you'll see our development platform kind of follow management and kind of head in those directions. But so I'm nationally focused, but just based here, obviously, because I love being here, and we have such a strong flag planted here. So
Is this Kettler's largest development
currently,
project?
right now,
Yep.
we've done bigger projects, but this is by far our biggest right now.
It's got to be one of the largest in the country, right? I mean, this is, and if you especially include all of, Ybor Harbor and.
Oh yeah.
Are you guys involved in the sheriff's property stuff too?
We are not. Darryl, that's all being led by Darryl, but of course we talk every day with Darryl on all these projects. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All of that could change. It's all dynamic, the market, partnerships, etc.
Yep, that's right.
Beautiful. Well, listen, thank you guys again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
No, thanks
All
for having
righty.
us.
That's it. Bye,
All
everybody.
right, thanks.
Thanks.
See y'all.